Final thoughts? Call it quits? Go home?
Pickle.
Now I got a game to get to. I need to go.
Which game?
Rockwall and South Lake Carroll. They moved the time up to 3. I gotta get out of here.
Good coaching matchup there.
Yep.
Lot of action this weekend. Some of it even tonight. And it's important, I would say imperative.
Is it, though? I don't think
that
so.
the people understand what to do with their money.
Yeah.
And how to invest.
Don't listen to Tepper.
And now it's time for America's
No,
favorite segment, Free Money!
No. I think
Free
that
money!
we should skip this one.
My college football picks against the spread. Pickle, would you care to guess how I did last week?
No, I really don't care.
There's 7 games. 4-3.
Yeah.
4-3, 17-8 on the year. Pretty darn good, I would say. 17-8, but huge slate this week, right? There are 9 games this week. So if I go Pickle, think about this. If I go 0-9, I'm 500.
Well, cool.
So
Let's hope that happens.
So you have something to root for. But there are games all across the state, including games tonight. Pickle, where are we starting?
We will start off Tulane. Knock on wood, going to play Houston at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Houston favored by 6.5 at home in their first game, potentially, of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
so this
my
is
goodness.
extremely hard to game plan for because there's such a huge disparity between experience. And I don't mean like returning starters. I mean like 2020 experience. This is Tulane's 4th game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Houston, this is number 1. Through largely, did they ever have a game that was canceled by their own? I don't think they had. No. So
all 5 of them that
they've
have been canceled has been from the other team.
they've had 5 games canceled.
I believe.
They're finally, knock on wood, supposed to get on the field tonight, 6:30 p.m. at TDECU Stadium. Tulane is a team that I think at 2-1 is probably a little worse than their record indicates.
Yeah.
They are a team that their offense is pretty solid. They replaced their quarterback early in the season, but they have been running the ball very, very well. They've been hammering the ball up front, and if you remember last year, Houston did have trouble stopping the run. Now, this is a new program, new team. The one thing I will say is that Tulane has not done well stopping the pass, and that has been against passing offenses that I don't think anybody's going to mistake for like elite passing offenses. Southern Miss and South Alabama are fine, but Houston figures to be a better passing offense, right? With that said, I'm not sure that I can pick Houston to cover the touchdown because this is their first time on the field.
And after the season that they had last year,
We don't
just
really
a
know.
lot of strangeness
Here's what I'm going to say.
surrounding Dana.
I think Houston's going to win, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's within a touchdown. I'm going to take Tulane plus 6.5. That is almost entirely based on the fact that Tulane has 3 games under their belt and Houston has 0.
Mm-hmm. And
the game speed, I think they're going to be a little bit more used to it. I wonder if Houston comes out a little bit flat, but they end up coming back and winning something along the lines of 34-31. I think it's close. I think it's within a touchdown. I'm going to take Tulane plus 6.5. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we'll head over to Saturday, starting in the SEC. Number 4 Florida heading to take on number 21 Texas A&M at Kyle Field, 11 a.m. on Saturday. Florida favored by 6.5 on the road.
Okay. A lot of this is a litmus test on what you think about. This is going to sound weird, but kind of what you think about the Alabama passing attack, what you think of Mac Jones. If you think Mac Jones is awesome, and you think the receivers for Alabama are awesome, and you think that the fact that A&M got carved up through the air is due to them being awesome, Kyle Trask probably theoretically represents a half step back, right, from that. I think there's a fair argument to be made for that. That's an idea. I will say, though, that Kyle Trask, the Manville product, has been awesome. He's been really, really good. And if you are a believer that the back half of the A&M defense is a problem, then Kyle Trask figures to expose that.
Which
now,
I think it is.
I look at the A&M side, and I think that I'm still, and maybe I'm just holding on. I understand this may be an unpopular opinion among some Aggies, but I'm still a Kellen Mond believer. I still think he's pretty good. I think part of it is they've got to get the running game going, and A&M, or rather Florida's run defense has not been anything special. The Florida secondary has been fine, but I think there are going to be plays to be made. I think A&M's got a great shot in this game. With that said, I am going to take Florida minus 6.5. I think they win by about a touchdown. I think it's a good line. I think they win by about a touchdown. I just don't trust the A&M defense right now. And coming off of last week, I'm not sure they've been able to fix whatever that problem is in a matter of a week. I'm going to take Florida minus 6.5 to cover that on the road. Don't feel great about it. My honest opinion is probably to stay away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the rules that have been set forth by the committee. I will take Florida minus 6.5.
The committee of you, yourself, and
what's next, Pickle?
you, I guess. Up next, arguably one of people's favorite rivalry games, the Red River rivalry, number 22 Texas, meeting up at the Cotton Bowl with OU, 11 a.m. on Saturday. OU favored by 2.5 at a neutral site game that has no hype to it. And it's
Isn't
just
it weird?
really, really disappointing for
strange.
my heart
Like,
personally.
Like, honestly, what's really strange about this is it was always going to be weird because of the pandemic, because the state fair is not going on. Right? Because I don't know what the attendance is going to be like at the Cotton Bowl, but it's going to be severely limited. Right?
And that's what makes this game.
That was always going to be weird. The scene was always going to be weird. When you add in the fact that these two teams are a combined 3-3, it's just like truly bizarre. Now, here is the thing. I think this game has a chance to be really pointsy. I don't know what the over-under is on this game, but I would look at the over-under in this game, and it'll probably be pretty high, but I think there's going to be point score because I think both defenses have looked pretty pedestrian, right? I think they've looked pretty pedestrian.
Neither secondary can do basically anything.
I do think Texas is going to be able to score because Oklahoma's defense looks bad, looks straight up bad right now. I also think because part of the reason that Texas struggled last week, at least at times offensively, is that their offensive line could not hold up against TCU's front.
No,
that was a big problem. That shouldn't be a problem against OU. I think OU's front is worse than TCU's.
That's a fair statement.
So they should be able to protect Ellinger a little bit better. They should be able to run the ball a little bit better. It's just going to come down to that Texas defense. Can they make a couple of plays? Can they get some stinking turnovers? Wouldn't that be neat?
Yeah.
They could force a couple of turnovers.
Don't know if they know what that word means.
I don't think Spencer Rattler has proven himself to be super special as of yet. I mean, heck, he's 1-2 as a starter. I will say this. I think this game's going to be a lot of offense. I think this game's going to be pretty sloppy because both these teams commit a lot of penalties. I think that Texas makes one extra play on a neutral site. I think they come up with the win. I'm going to take Texas plus 2.5. Especially you give me those points, I'll take that. I'm going to take Texas plus 2.5. What's next, Pickle? I
think OU wins that game. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but you're doom and gloom.
Lincoln Riley knows what he's got to do. All right. So up next, weird game. Really, really weird matchup.
Yeah.
UTSA heading up to take on number 15 ranked BYU, 2:30 on Saturday. BYU favored by 34.5 at home. Just a weird matchup here.
This is a weird matchup, okay? A truly weird matchup. And so this game was kind of signed, I think, whenever nobody knew if football season was going to happen. And UTSA is looking around like, oh, we're 3-1, and we've just kind of signed up to go on the road and get beat by BYU.
Yeah. Why did we do that? I'm sure they're thinking
They're thinking ka-ching. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with BYU's been beating the snot out of people. They're 3-0, and they've been great. The offense, the pass defense has been spectacular. arguably the best in the country. Admittedly, they played Navy, who doesn't throw the ball, Troy, who's not a great passing team, and Louisiana Tech, who's a fair passing team. Their quarterback, Zach Wilson, has been terrific. They have a power running game that is just grinding opponents into dust. This is a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really good team. If UTSA is going to keep this game close, what they're going to be able to do is run the ball. They're going to have to run the ball and take the ball away a few times. That's the biggest thing. This is a UTSA team that takes the ball away a lot. They're third in the nation in takeaways. I think they're going to be able to do that. 34 and is it 34 and a half? 34 and a half is a lot. You're saying
That's
are they going to lose by
lot.
5 touchdowns? I just don't think they're gonna.
I don't.
I think I think UTSA. I think UTSA is going to keep this thing close. I think you saw that last week against UAB. I think UAB is a superior team to UTSA, but UTSA was able to kind of muck that game up and keep that game close. I think they're going to be able to do the same thing. I think they lose, but I think they lose by like 21. I think they keep this thing relatively respectable. I'm going to take UTSA in the points. UTSA plus 34.5. I think this game stays relatively close. Relatively close. I think BYU wins. I'm not calling the upset. But I think that Sincere McCormick's able to get grinding a little bit.
Those turnovers are huge.
They're not going to pass the ball basically at all because their quarterback situation is totally in flux and they don't really know what they want to do, which kind of negates one of BYU's best attributes, which is their secondary. I think they're just going to grind it out, and I think they're going to try to limit the number of possessions that BYU has. I like UTSA plus 34.5. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, heading back to the Big 12, and Texas Tech taking on number 24 Iowa State, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. Iowa State favored by 12.5 at home.
Okay. So this is really interesting to me because the one thing that Iowa State, not the one thing, they've got a few things that are really cooking right now, okay? But one of the things that's really cooking right now is their pass rush, okay? They lead the Big 12 in sacks. Guys like Jaquan Bailey and Will McDonald are excellent. But Texas Tech's offense, A, is kind of built in a way to negate that, and B, their offensive line's been pretty good, at least in pass protection, and they've run the ball pretty well, too. Their offensive line's been great. They've only given up 1 sack in their first 3 games. That's pretty good. Furthermore, if you're looking for... So Texas Tech has 2 conference losses. One of them is to Texas,
which was a heartbreaker for. It was a great game.
The
played by
heartbreaker,
them.
but they kind of got carved up by a great quarterback, right? Then they lose to Kansas State on a backup quarterback, and that's really discouraging in my mind. Pretty discouraging. Okay, but I also don't think Brock Purdy's all that special. I think Brock Purdy is average. So the question is, can the secondary, going up against an average quarterback, because the other thing is they don't have a ton of running game to speak of. The Iowa State doesn't. They don't have a ton of running game to speak of. Can they make Brock Purdy remain looking average? That's basically the name of the game. Like, don't let the conversation on Monday be like, man, maybe Brock Purdy's actually awesome. If you do that, Texas Tech's probably staying within 12 and a half points. Going on the road stinks. That's no fun. Ames is no. Thumbs down to Ames. But I do think that Texas Tech keeps this game close.
Did we ever get an official ruling on Alan Bowman?
I haven't seen one.
Do we know? Not to interrupt you there. Well, kind of.
Alan Bowman. Still day to day. That's the last thing we saw.
Okay.
So if he can go, he'll go.
Yeah.
But I also think that the backup quarterback, whatever his name was, I forgot it. I think that they're going to be able to move the ball a little pretty effectively.
Right.
I think Tech keeps this game within 10 points. I like Tech plus 12.5 on the road. What's next, Pickle?
All right, we're going with the Fighting Ishmael Johnsons. Texas State is taking on Troy, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. Troy favored by 7.5 at home.
Tough line.
Yeah.
Real tough line because I think Texas State's better than their record indicates. And I also think Troy, they're 1-1. Last week they got murdered by BYU, but we've talked about how BYU is pretty good. When Texas State has the ball, I do think that the offense is going to start clicking a little bit just because of experience. I think the offense is going to start be able to move a little bit more. The question is going to be on the defensive side, which has been so up and down. Can they find a way to slow down Gunnar Watson, the quarterback, and they've got a great receiver in Kalen Geiger? Can they slow it down through the air? They've had their troubles in the secondary. Can they step up in a big way? They can run the ball as well. What I would say, I lean a little bit towards Troy. Asking Texas State to go on the road is pretty tough. I think that Troy is a little bit more of a finished product right now. And as a result, I'm going to lean towards Troy to win their Sun Belt opener at home. I'm going to take Troy minus 7.5. I don't feel great. I'd feel better if that was 6.5. But so if you can buy the hook, buy the hook. But I'm going to go with Troy minus 7.5. What's next, Michael?
Up next, back to the Big 12 and a matchup I'm pretty excited for this one, actually. Kansas State at TCU, 3 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. TCU favored by 8.5 at home.
Okay. So, we don't know what the Kansas State quarterback situation is like.
Mm-hmm.
Skylar Thompson got knocked out of the game with an arm injury against Tech last week. We don't know what their status is. They brought in Will Howard. He was fine. If they go with Skylar Thompson, let's put it this way. I'm comfortable saying that they will get diminished returns in the quarterback spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair to say. Furthermore, I think you saw last week what happens when TCU commits to Max Duggan. I thought that he was really sharp, and I thought that he was really strong.
His run game was impressive.
Yes. Furthermore, I do think that the defense is going to be a big player in this one. I think that the TCU defense is playing very, very well. The biggest question for me is, can TCU turn Kansas State over?
Mm-hmm.
Can they win the turnover margin? Because TCU is a team. Kansas State has been turning the ball over a lot. Okay, or turning teams over a lot. They have 7 takeaways and no turnovers. They're +7 in turnover margin. TCU, obviously, a big reason they won last week was because of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
What does the turnover margin look like in this one? This game strikes me as a game that's a 1-touchdown game. That's why I'm going to take Kansas State in the points. I'm going to take Kansas State +8.5. I think that this strikes me as a 1-touchdown game, something along the lines of like 30-23, something like that. I like Kansas State +8.5. I think TCU wins, but I think this game is close.
And Mies just brought up a good point, which is why I found this game interesting too. Is basically whoever wins this is the front runner in the Big 12 right now, and who would have thought that?
What a weird year. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, some Conference USA action as UTEP heads over to Louisiana Tech at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. The Texters favored by 14.
Okay. So, of course, you've got the hottest team in the nation, the UTEP Miners.
Hop on the train, baby.
3-1, back in action this week. Louisiana Tech beat Southern Miss close on the road, and then they beat Houston Baptist like a drum.
Yes.
But then they went and they played BYU and got hammered into oblivion. This is a Louisiana Tech defense that is not very good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Louisiana Tech defense that, plain and simple, is just not very good. But is UTEP capable of exposing them? Furthermore, this is probably the second good passing offense that UTEP has seen. They faced Texas. They got ripped to shreds.
Yes.
Okay? That's one loss. You go back the rest of their games, the teams they beat more or less can't pass. Louisiana Tech can throw. Luke Anthony, their quarterback, is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
They are 22nd in the nation in passing offense. This offense is going to hum. I like Louisiana Tech -14. It pains me to say because I like the Miners, but I am going to take
Big Miners guy.
I'm going to take Louisiana Tech -14. It gives me no pleasure to say that, but I like Louisiana Tech -14.
Yeah.
And finally, Pickle.
Ugh. We've got Charlotte taking on the Mean Green, 7 p.m. Saturday in Denton. Charlotte favored by 3 on the road.
Barf.
Really, like,
Barf.
big.
So,
barf.
okay, now part of this is last week they go and they lost at home to Southern Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason that they lost, not the whole reason, but part of the reason they lost is that they were playing with basically me and Pickle at the linebacker spot.
Honest to God, yes. I think I was bigger than one of the linebackers, to be honest with you.
Now, we don't know what the status of a lot of these guys are because they are still going through COVID-19 protocols. We don't know. We hope that it's a little bit better. And if it's a little bit better, I think North Texas is better than Charlotte. Like, that's a weird thing to say, but, like, Charlotte, yeah, they hung with FAU last week, right? They are. This is a very, very. This is a 49ers team that the offense is okay. Like, they throw the ball okay with Chris Reynolds. They run the ball okay. This is a nothing special Charlotte team. I refuse to believe at this moment that North Texas is as bad as they've shown for most of the season. I refuse to believe it. Like, losing at home to a winless Charlotte team would represent to me a shift in the way that I think about North Texas.
Yes.
I refuse to believe that. I'm going to take the home dog. I like North Texas +3. I think they win this game outright. I think they wake up. I think they win this game outright.
They just can't shoot themselves in the foot. They're better. They're a better team than Charlotte. If they have even half of the number of guys that they were missing last week back, they are a better team. But will they fumble it on the 5-yard line every time special teams goes to punt or kick off? Like, you just can't shoot yourself in the foot, and they should win this game.
So those are my free money picks. I like Tulane +6.5 at Houston. I like Florida -6.5 at Texas A&M. I like Texas +2.5 versus Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl. I like UTSA +34.5 at BYU. I like Texas Tech +12.5 at Iowa State. I like Troy -7.5 at home against Texas State. I like Kansas State +8.5 at TCU. I like Louisiana Tech -14 at home against UTEP, and I like North Texas +3 at home against Charlotte. I took a lot of out-of-state teams. I don't feel good about that.
Yeah,
Makes me feel icky.
You were not a homer this
week. I was not a homer this week, and that makes me feel icky.